Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggelhaus. And in this video, we got ourselves a good old-fashioned comic book unboxing to do here today. But more importantly than the unboxing, which we're going to use to set up the conversation in today's video, we need to talk about what is possibly the next frontier for comic book collectors. Yes, we are talking pulps and manga. Oh, don't turn off the video just yet. I know you guys don't want to talk about pulps and manga, but this is going to be very, very important. We have to have this conversation because these things are on the horizon. And I think comic book collectors are the ones that are probably going to be the most interested in these things to come. Are they actually going to blow up? Are people going to, spec on these things in the future? Is this going to be a market that overtakes comic book collecting? Well, in this video, we're going to have that conversation. But of course, before I get into it, if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, I would appreciate it. Helps support the channel, doing those things. But let's get into this video here today. Now, I want to start this video with an unboxing here. While this isn't a manga or pulp, it does sort of relate to it. Now, this is a book that I actually, as you guys can see, I did a little bit of pre-unboxing here. But it's a book that I got on Comic Connect. And frankly, it is one of the Bobby Blue books. If you guys happen to see my conversation with Flip Mode Comics and some of the other coverage I did of the Comic Connect auctions, I covered the Bobby Blue collection and, the story that came with, Jamie and Philippe, how they were able to find that collection and all of the amazing books and crazy prices that they all went for. Well, they actually had another Comic Connect auction that actually ended in December. So this is a book that it took a little bit to get shipped to me. I think, the holidays and stuff like that, made shipping a little bit slower. But this was one that, frankly, I've had my eye on this for a little bit of time, like this whole particular run, just because I have such an appreciation for the artist who did this, who, of course, made his name in pulps before going over to comics. And when I saw that this book was up for sale and that it was a Bobby Blue collection book, I felt like I had to have it. So without further ado, the book I picked up is this beautiful Strange Stories from Another World, number 3, the Norman Saunders painted cover. I mean, look at that, guys. Bobby Blue collection, 6.0, off-white to white pages. Look at how cool that cover is. The actual painted style. I think the painted covers are always really, really striking to me. But when you see them in person, they look even better than they do on the images that you see online. And I am so excited to add this one to the collection. Really cool skull cover right here. Of course, anytime there's purple in the trade dress, I'm always going to be a fan of it. Obviously, that's my color scheme. So I really, really always love this cover. I thought that was so cool that, the skull guy is kind of looking at this, I don't know if it's like a haunted mirror. Kind of reminds me of, what is the Superman when the villains get trapped in the mirror dimension thing. And then you have this guy who's, holding the knife going after her. But I always thought that this was such a cool cover. Of course, like I said, done by Norman Saunders, who is a very, very famous and influential pulp artist who later on, in his career, 1950s, 1952 specifically, he would go on to do some comic book covers. And in my opinion, I think these Strange Stories from Another World ones are some of his best work. There you see the back cover right there. But a very, very cool book. I ended up paying, I think, $580 for it. I thought it was a pretty fair price overall. That's definitely a book. Not too many on the census, although I don't necessarily think that that's like a major key that everybody sends in. I'm sure there could be more on the census if, in fact, people decided to slab more of them. But I want to use that unboxing and book to set up our conversation here today. This is very, very important stuff. We have to talk about, pulps and the influence they might have on the comic book market. Now, quickly, just to recap, Norman Saunders, if you guys don't know, his probably most famous comic book cover is this Worlds of Fear right here, the eyeball cover. Again, another one with the painted aesthetic. This is from the Strange Stories from Another World run. A lot of really cool covers in this particular run. Of course, there's this like zombie one right here, that I think is always really, really cool that he did. A lot of people really love this cover. And then there's this one right here, Strange Stories from Another World, number 5. Just like bananas cover. He's got the Book of the Dead right there with some skulls and some demons and all this stuff. And this really does take me back to sort of the pulp style of stories and conventions and tropes that you would see of that time period, in the 1920s, which again is a very, very big influence to my own comic book. Of course, I'm talking about Sanity. But of course, to quickly recap, if you guys don't know, Norman Saunders, he was doing pulps all the way back in the 1930s. Pulps were sort of the precursor to comic book storytelling. Effectively, they were novels with some illustrations inside of them. Just think of them as books with a little bit of pictures on the interior, but they often had, some of the most amazing covers. I mean, look at this top three right here by Norman Saunders. Let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit. I mean, this crazy skull that you have right here, this girl in the red dress, with the bondage, with a bunch of skulls around the table. Here you have this like crazy snake serpent god that is doing sacrifice on this girl in red with bondage right here. So this really, predates a lot of the huge comic book covers that people really love and kind of laid the foundation for all of the elements that people love. I mean, here you have some, obviously some saucy covers right here with a lot of bondage going on. But pulps have been something, that has really been blowing up recently. And of course, in this previous Heritage sale, this was one of the books that I talked about on my live stream. You have the all-story first appearance of Tarzan, a book coming all the way back from 1912. A lot of people talking about how this is effectively the Action 1 Comics version of the pulp universe, and this setting the world record for a pulp sale ever at $264,000. I believe Heritage described this book as the highest grade version of this book that they have ever sold in their collection. Of course, a 1912 book, what can you expect? Obviously, they call this like a VG, and for 1912, I mean, that's pretty darn good. But in case you guys don't know, here are some of the images of what pulps look like. So, it is a thicker format. Think of it like a little bit of a, paperback novel. And then in the interior here, you can see that there are some illustrations, some sketches and things like that. And then on the back here, there is a little bit of color as well. But it's really the covers that have sort of this, like I said, with the comic I just showed you guys, this painted aesthetic. This was really like hand-drawn, hand-painted, and is really, really beautiful, how this stuff actually presents. Much different than your sort of typical comic book art that has sort of the line work. This is actually more of like sort of the fine art category. Another pulp that actually sold recently right here is this Weird Tales from 1932. This is actually the first appearance of Conan. So this book selling at $6,900, a big sale, not the record price for this book, but you guys can see that, there is still a lot of demand out there right now for pulps. A lot of people interested in this stuff. And, now Heritage Auctions obviously having, pulp sales becoming more frequent, more popular. Of course, like comic books, there's all different types of genres that pulps have. You have your sports ones here. You got your baseball ones here. You got your, Humphrey Bogart detective type of thing here. You got your science fiction type of things right here. In fact, I'm just going to just add that one to the tracking list right there. But a lot of cool stuff, and here's another Norman Saunders one. This one's pretty cool. Kind of a skull guy dancing with a girl in red right there. And again, this is the aesthetic that a lot of people like already in comic books. And this stuff predates all of those covers that we know, like Venus. What is the Venus cover? You guys know the one, and Chamber of Chills and things like that. That this kind of has that aesthetic before those comic books actually ever came out. And the big news, of course, is that CGC actually announced a little while ago that pulps were going to be graded very, very soon. There's a lot of interesting conversations in the forums over at CGC. I'll put a link in the description for this particular forum right here, but it's a really, really good read. This is some of the recap of what actually happened at Collector Summit, which was, of course, a comic book con that I was actually able to attend and meet a lot of people in the community. And pulps were huge over there. I mean, there was so much pulp transacting going on, and they actually did have some of the pulp slabs for display. Kind of think of them as like almost like a magazine format. I mean, they're a little bit bigger in size because the format of the pulps are a little bit thicker, obviously. And there you can see some pictures that, these pulps were just kind of sitting at the table. And so really, really interesting, a lot of excitement for pulps. Pulps have some of the best covers, in my opinion. I mean, a lot of people like those Schomburg airbrush style of comic books, you know, the ones that are from the Startling run. And so I would think that there's going to be a lot of people that really enjoy the aesthetics of pulp covers as well. And frankly, you know, they were probably able to put a lot more time into the cover art because, you know, what was in between the covers is just words right there. So in an interesting way, you know, I think a lot of comic book collectors are going to be more open to pulps being thrown in slabs simply due to the fact that, you know, let's be honest, guys, nobody actually reads the comic book. So because there's no art on the interior or no sufficient art on the interior, it's not like you're really missing out on a lot of the aesthetics there. So very interesting that these are coming out. I'm going to save a little bit of talking points about, you know, some of the speculation that exists in it. But before I get into that, of course, I just wanted to kind of let you guys know, in case you didn't hear, Beckett announces controversial new grading service for manga. So again, another sort of new frontier here in the collectible world that is slightly comic book related. If you guys don't know, mangas are now being graded by Beckett, and I would imagine that it's only going to be a matter of time before mangas are also going to be graded by CGC. I'm sure that CGC is working on, you know, their version of what grading a manga would be. And frankly, based on the manga format, you know, the sizes of it, I mean, their slabs might be not too dissimilar from that of like a video game slab, or maybe even some of these pulp slabs that we just saw. A lot of the younger generation of people are very excited for mangas, as we've, you know, talked about here before on the channel, while a lot of the golden age collectors are, you know, really, really heavily speculating on these pulp covers, because I feel like pulp is that next frontier and that speculation for a lot of golden age collectors, because they, you know, have just such an appreciation for the cover art. And frankly, pulp has some of the best cover art there is. But, you know, with all this, you know, you have to heed a little bit of a warning here, because while pulps are really cool and also very, very rare, we don't know what the comic book collector base is going to be as far as them going into this market. I mean, certainly there's going to be money to be made. You know, people are going to be able to, you know, find really rare runs and play hot potato with it and flip these things and, you know, make a lot of money. And so for that reason, of course, there's going to be a lot of excitement. I mean, you know, say what you will about it, guys, but we all know, like, when people can make money on this stuff, they're going to be very, very excited. And that's really one of the reasons why, you know, people love golden age books so much, is because they go up in value because they're so rare and that they're hard to find. And so people are going to enjoy that for the same reason that you know, they'll see with pulps. But at the same time, you know, kind of like magazines, you know, when we get into the 70s and 80s and magazine collectors, there's a lot of comic book collectors that simply don't like the format of comic book magazines. You know what I mean? Like, think about the first appearance of Rocket Raccoon in the Marvel Preview magazine. Like, that book or that magazine is just not as desired as Incredible Hulk 271, simply due to the fact that people are stubborn. People just prefer the comic book format. And I think that there's going to be a subset of collectors that will just never latch on to pulps, simply due to the fact that the format itself is not something that they are particularly interested in. But, you know, I do think that, you know, a lot of dealers are definitely going to jump on the selling pulp bandwagon. I think a lot of collectors, you know, for the FOMO and the spec, are definitely going to jump on the pulp bandwagon. So you got to be a little bit careful. Now, the other little thing to talk about with pulps, there's a lot of interesting conversation about trimming and what they're going to do with some of the resto and stuff. Trimming was very popular with pulps. They've already announced that they're going to be giving pulps with trim. Actually, they're going to give it blue labels, but they're going to notate it on the slab. I think it's just one of those things that they're kind of going to accept. It's sort of like, you know, a lot of golden age books. Sometimes they get the blue label, even though it'll say on the slab a small amount of glue on the cover. Similar situation to pulps, but on the trimming front. But that's all I got for this video. That was me just kind of talking about, you know, pulps sort of slowly starting to be on the rise, and I find them really interesting and fascinating. And while I do love the covers, I will say that I also have a bias towards the format. I don't love it. You know, I'm old school. I like my comic book format, which is why I bought Strange Stories from Another World. You know, I get a little bit of the pulp vibe from the Norman Saunders painted cover, but I get it in the very skinny comic book format. So there you go. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. That was me doing my unboxing, talking a little bit about pulps and mangas, the next frontiers of comic book collecting. What do you guys think about these formats? What do you guys think about them for the future? What did you guys think about that Tarzan sale, paying $264,000, the ultimate price ever paid for a pulp. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. See you all in the next one. The pulp adventure continues with issues 2 and 3 of my comic series, Sanity, a noir detective story set in the Lovecraftian universe. The pre-launch page has just awakened from its cosmic slumber, so go give it a follow and stay informed on the madness to come. Link in the description.